Salifu Abdul, please, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Anyway, my name is Salifu. I'm working for People's Dialogue. I'm just contributing into the current discussion with NGOs and communities perception and what we can do in order to maybe improve the trend. But I have this view that the reality is very glaring. We as an NGO, what brought us into action is what keeps us going, and that is how come the international community and any other person will still want to rely. What we have to focus on is not to lose the fact that yes, there is poverty, yes, there is lack of capacity, yes, there is lack of infrastructure. So there are so many factors that any community that you attempt as an NGO to venture in, you might have identified a problem with them, and that is a fact. But what you shouldn't lose fact is the people's own capacity in terms of their God-given resources. Their numbers as a collective group of people is a resource. Whatever they have within the community in terms of productivity, their ability to farm, their ability to create dams, whatever they are, you didn't bring from outside, must be recognized in such a way that you are in to fill a vacancy, so that by the time you have attempted to help them in 1 or 2 years, you have built their capacity to maintain and sustain whatever you identify that was lacking. Bear in mind, the essence of NGOs came as a result of the lack of capacity of the state to meet the needs and demands of citizens. So the moving away of the colonial masters created that space, because originally they didn't have structures in almost everywhere. So activities or interventions were being reached from one center to the other. And then finally, we faced them off with independence. So the bureaucracy, the administrative, the extraction, the managerial, everything went down to zero and beyond. So in order to support the state to fill that capacity gap, international persons came in, identify 1 or 2 persons who have that zeal, the interest to support in own community process, supported them so that you give them that, we'll give you this. Can you do this? Yes. So we shouldn't feel so bad as if the people become so reliant on us. Yes, why wouldn't they? Because you have originally identified a problem which you have attempted to fill, and you have made effort. The only place you will fail is when you have failed to know that you came in the first place because of the problem. Then you now become somebody, a lord over them, wanting them to worship you. Then you can blame yourself, because at the long run, you are either likely to lose your fame, you lose your funding support, then the community itself don't even want to see you. So as CSOs, the problems we normally identify will never stop. It is going to be with man till thy kingdom come. You do your best, you do your part, your time comes, you exit. That is what we should do. And we should not lose sight of the fact that we have done a lot of interventions and we have helped, and we will continue to do. And that is how come a donor will still one day see your file as a CSO and want to come in, because the kind of intervention you did in community A, that same problem is faced by community B. And so if I am aware of you being able to do it in A, I inform, or based on your published reports, I believe you have the capacity, then I come in. So it will just be going on like that. we just have to ensure that we do not go beyond trying to build the capacity of the community to own whatever we have come in to establish by way of bringing them up so that they maintain and sustain whatever gap we found and try to fill in, so that they are able to appreciate. They will always see you as the one who brings it. They will always. But we must find a way of making them know that you came in because of this and that. At least 2-3 people in one or few months' time might have built up. So you use them as the case study. You make others believe that if Amma and Kofi, when I came, see where they are now. If they were farming small and you improve them with technology and they were able to now farm large, they will have a better life. So those who think they are coming to you to collect money just to go and buy tomatoes and gari and eat, they can't make it. So you have pushed yourself into that position that you understand the situation. So tell them, educate them to see beyond what they just ask for. You can't deny them because they just think at that particular time you are the breadwinner. You have to help. If it is there, we do. So this is my input as far as the NGO and community perception is concerned. Earlier, I also listened to the issue with the HIV, and I was following in the presentation. I think in some of us who have carried out HIV education, we have dwelt on the negative so much that it lost its interest in listening, in hearing, and then in taking the issue serious. We
Hello,
campaigned. Yes.
If you can wrap up so that we move on to other colleagues.
So I want to just add lastly that for the HIV aspect, we should forget of any negative way of educating the people. You must put it in a positive limelight. How did others who have even who have contracted manage to survive beyond a certain period in time? Everything about death is death. Whether HIV, malaria, can knock you, you will die and be a skeleton. So the issue of sharing or showing communities or people dead bodies, skeletons, if you get it, this is what, no, it's not going to help in the people's understanding. We can only turn the other thing round. Don't fear it. It is this. These are the processes by which when you get it, you can be managed and you will live long and you will survive, you can work, so that the fear aspect of the disease is removed into a hope.
Yes. Thank you, Salifu, for that insightful contribution. I'll come to Mr. Paulos Ekofor. There are some questions in the chat box, so if you can look at it after Mr. Ekofor's remarks, then if you can attempt to answer them for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's quite insightful, and I think I've learned a lot from this webinar. Mine is not necessarily a question, but maybe couch as a contribution. My observation working in the development sector over time for the past 10 years, I've seen some new trends and emerging developments. Gone were the days where you see program officers combining all the work on their decks. So you see the same program officer specializing in grants coordination, tracking the budget, blah, 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 doing M&E and all that. So you got to a point where you notice that communicating results is a key component of our work. So the M&E component virtually was detached from the work of program experts, but certainly we have oversight, we make contribution, we oversee. So people began to build expertise and specialization in that sector. I have also noticed the same thing in terms of communicating our work, content creation and all that. There is a lot of expertise evolving around that sector. And my suggestion is to also share with you as a center like CDD, for example, where over the past 2-3 years, we've worked strongly to strengthen that department, documentation and communications unit, where we've been able to bring in on board. I know it may be a difficulty for organization because of salary, remuneration, and all that, but this is something that I think we should also consider. There are communication experts that can also help us in creating contents that can really tell a very good story about the work that we do. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Seiko, for. Fiona, I'm not sure if you've seen the questions, or do you want me to read them to you?
Yes, please read them. They were up and they've now disappeared. Okay.
So, Mr. Kojo, I'm sorry if I get Peterson say that in Africa dispensation, in the African dispensation, how do we draw the line between presenting exactly the true reflection of the story on the ground and being modest to prevent victimization of your organization in your country? I'll add the second question so then you can take the two together. It says negative stories sell. How do we as CSOs ensure balance by reducing negative stories and telling more positive, compelling, but very marketable stories? I think they are both around the same tangent.
Okay.
How do we draw a balance with speaking to the reality, but not feeding into stereotypes, and also not projecting yourself on issues to be victimized about?
Thank you. I think with the first one, Mr. Kojo Peters, right? I think we really need to partially look at a human psychology and what really motivates and drives us, even at a granular level for our own selves. You want to feel like you're part of something greater than yourself, right? And something that can be solved. If it becomes too hopeless, it's very easy to disengage and to give up on it. And I think also, in addition to that, we do not kind of want to one man up the other based on who is solving the biggest of problems and who is the reality. So I'll give you an example. Kojo Peterson, Mr. Peterson. Again, we don't have the forum to do this, but there's a skill here. So, Kojo, you should have told me this so that I could have given the presentation of this. Kojo, look at this. If you look at all the great speeches and all the things that have ever moved you, what they do is they paint the reality here, okay? They say, for example, Ghana is struggling. Things in Ghana are difficult. We are suffering. And then what you do, and I hope you can see my hands, you paint a picture of what is possible. And so you differentiate between the reality and when people buy into your organizational framework, what could become. Kojo, my submission is this. We just stick at the bottom level. You just keep painting how bad the picture is. You never tell people what is possible because of you.
And what the ideal is.
And what the ideal is. You see, Ms. Fiona will remind you, you have people like Plato and arguing that an ideal does not lose its idealism just because it's never realized. That this idea that our aspirations still ought to be pursued. And this, I will argue. Pardon? Pardon?
Go on.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Kojo Peters, so these ideas that, okay, there is a difference between our current reality and where we could be. That is what Steve Jobs does when he's giving you or unveiling his products for Mac.
Martin Luther King.
That's what Martin Luther King's speech, I Have a Dream, does. It says, this is America as we are. But I have a dream. We could become so much better. We are better if we believe in this. Then you come back to remind people what the reality is. And then you go back and you show them what the ideals are. That is a structure of a good storytelling. And in fact, all the Gettysburg Address, Kwame Nkrumah's address at their independence, that this is our current reality. Or I don't want to get political. I want to be apolitical as much as possible. But every wonderful thing that has moved us to action painted the reality and showed us what is possible. So my argument is this. I'm not saying don't tell the reality as it is, but show us the possibilities and what we should aspire to. That's all.
And what people are trying to do in order to get there. So attempts are being made, but they may need a little guidance or a little bit of a push to get there. So we're also selling hope. As Obama said, the audacity of hope.
The audacity.
You know, this is our current climate. This is where we are, but we are slowly making strides to make it, you know, to live that ideal, or to, you know, resolve whatever issue it is that you're trying to resolve.
And to add to that, it is not a hopeless hope. This is not a hope just for the sake of hoping. It is an actionable hope. And like Beckett argues, we will fail, but we will fail upwards. We will keep getting better at it. So our organization is not perfect. And that's why you show your humanity and you show the funk and the kinks, but we are getting there. And these people are better off with us than without us. So that is the structure. And I hope that also addresses part of the negative stories sell. No, they don't sell. Negative stories, they defeat us and they make us feel hopeless. It is stories of redemption and hope. That is a Christian story. That is an Islamic story. That story of it's true things are bad, but they'll get better. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have it's 12:49 or 12:50 now. I'll just give you the next 2 minutes if you have any closing remarks, a summary pointer. So if people, what will be your key takeaway from your presentation, from everything that we have spoken? What should be the 2 things that civil society groups or people here should take away from our discussion this afternoon?
Miss Fiona, should I summarize?
Okay, go ahead.
Or you
have?
That's okay.
No.
Okay. My boss has allowed me to summarize this one, so let me do that, could you? I think really 3 things. Do not speak on behalf of people and claim to be giving them a voice, right? Sometimes you can end up taking away their agency. Make sure that people who you are speaking to get to articulate their own issues. Secondly, there is a global pandemic. And I know a lot of us are frustrated we are not able to communicate because we are not in person. Take that as a barometer of how you used to do things. And you have to ask yourself, why do you want to go back to the old world that was not working for everybody? Why do you want to revisit a past which you got in so that you can address? So how can you use the pandemic to pivot, to tell better, more humane stories, to go back to your communities and tell them, you know what? We have less, but we have each other. And then to reach out to your partners in the West and say, we know you are struggling, and Kojo wanted to tell you they're there with you, or Kwabna wanted to tell you they're there with you from Bolgatanga. So I think this is not the time to ask, this is the time of giving and showing how we are transforming our communities. And that, I think, focusing on hope, focusing on redemption, and saying that this is a new normal and we are willing to work with the new normal because it is an opportunity. Something has been opened. The West can now empathize with us in a way before we had to paint. Now they know what it means to be hopeless in a hopeless world. And that's where the SDGs matter, right? Because everybody can be poor in a day and everybody can face death. These were realities that we used to live with. Now, please empathize with us. Let us work together. I think that would be the major takeaway from our side.
Thank you, Kamal, and thank you, Fiona. Thank you for a wonderful session, as you have done with us. I want to thank you for your time. And colleagues, I would say here that the team from Lema agreed to do this at no cost. I don't have the money to pay them, but they agreed to spend this time with us and to share their knowledge with us. Someone had requested for the presentation. I will check with them if the team is okay. I will share the presentation via our mailing list. But if you find this session useful, if there are any questions and you need further support in You can reach out to them directly or reach out to me, and I will link you to them. And then that will be a conversation between the organizations and them. And so thank you, Kamal. Thank you, Fiona. And by way of next step, so this is the first of a series that we have begun at the National Secretariat. Next month, we will have the second session, which will be facilitated by the Ghana Monitoring and Evaluation Forum. We will have a session on monitoring and evaluation during this period. And so I'll share the link. I'll share a registration portal. If you are interested, you kindly register, and then we will take it from there. So thank you everyone for your time. Please kindly leave your details, your email, your number, your organization in the chat box, and then we will communicate with you. Thanks everyone, and
thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.